gusts as high as 70 miles an hour. Here in Ventura, California, that Thomas fire burned down hundreds of homes. It is still burning.
Every single man and woman that's out here on these lines are absolutely dedicated. Yes, it's brutal, dirty, nasty work, but it has to be done. We're going to be here until it's done.
A massively controversial decision by President Trump. He is expected to announce in a speech tomorrow the start of the process of recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the U.S. Embassy there from Tel Aviv.
This is a promise that past presidents have made. President Bill Clinton made the promise, President George W. Bush.
I'm just astonished at how this whole thing has gone off the rails in the last few days. These revelations about Peter Strzok. Nobody's covering themselves in glory here. Everybody's taking a credibility hit.
The tax bill will be less of a mess. I think they're very close to working out a deal.
Russia suspended Tuesday from participating in the upcoming Olympic Winter Games.
Of news happening for you overnight. A live shot from the streets of New York City, where we are decorated for Christmas, which is on its way very quickly. Good morning. You're watching Fox and Friends First on this Wednesday morning. I'm Heather Childers. A lot to tell you about, so let's get to our top story right now. Happening today. President Trump expected to make good on another campaign promise, set to announce that the U.S. will officially recognize Jerusalem as the capital of Israel. Griff Jenkins is live for us in Washington, D.C. Griff, the decision already sparking a lot of backlash.
Good morning, Heather. That's right. It is definitely making waves in the Middle East, but let me set the stage. Many presidents before him, going back to Bill Clinton and George Bush, made campaign promises like this one.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
But today at 1 p.m., President Trump will follow through on that promise, recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and directing the State Department to begin the process, which will take years, 3 to 4 years, of moving the U.S. Embassy there from Tel Aviv. And it is already causing backlash in Bethlehem. Flags with President Trump's image are burning as the U.S. consulate in Jerusalem issued a security warning on Twitter for U.S. citizens, directing them to avoid the Old City and the West Bank. The move clearly angering Palestinians who want Jerusalem as their capital as well. President Mahmoud Abbas warning in this statement, quote, such a move will have detrimental consequences on the peace process and the prospects for the internationally endorsed two-state solution. And allies in the region reacting with strong warnings that this may have serious consequences. Turkish President Erdogan saying the move is a red line.
Our struggle on this matter will continue with resolve. As a matter of fact, this can go as far as breaking off our diplomatic relations with Israel.
Now, anticipating the reaction for potential for violent protests, U.S. Marine fast teams are already deploying all over the Middle East. This as questions over the impact of such a move, upending decades of U.S. diplomacy, will await Vice President Pence's arrival in Jerusalem in less than 2 weeks, Heather. It is a big move, and we'll hear more today.
Yeah, it really is. So 1 p.m. today, of course, that will be covered here on Fox News. Griff, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Now to another Fox News alert for you. California under siege again. Massive wind-fueled flames sparking apocalyptic destruction, forcing more than 150,000 people to leave everything behind. Jonathan Hunt is live for us in Ventura. That's where the evacuation zone widened overnight. You know, Jonathan, we heard Nancy Pelosi use the word apocalyptic to describe the tax plan. This is apocalyptic.
That's exactly what it is, Heather. No end in sight to the suffering of so many displaced residents here. No end in sight to the battles that the firefighters are having to go through. And this is what a lot of residents are going to be returning to in the city of Ventura. You can see here we're in the driveway of one house, pickup truck, family sedan, completely destroyed. And then you come up here, the garage door is right in front of us. And then behind that, the image of complete and utter destruction. And the thing we see so often in these fires, the only part of the house left standing, the chimney stack. Now, these fires have so far scorched some 55,000 acres across this area. This is the Thomas Fire, Ventura, about 60 miles north of Los Angeles. The fire's burning so fiercely, blown by fierce Santa Ana winds, which are those hot, warm winds. They're usually not as destructive in December because we've usually had some rain by now. Not the case this season, and that's why they're causing so much destruction. NASA has released some extraordinary images of the smoke from the fires blowing across Southern California now. And as I say, it's not just here in Ventura. In Sunland and Sylmar, which is north of Los Angeles, the fire there has scorched some 11,000 acres, 30 structures, including homes, destroyed there. Also, it's been a big problem for a lot of livestock that are there. We have seen some heartbreaking images of horses fleeing through the smoke-filled streets of that area. Some of those horses have been killed. The good news, no fatalities so far among residents in any of these fires. Heather?
Yeah, it seems like we were just reporting on all of this. And of course, our prayers to all those firefighters have to actually go out there and try to battle this and get it under control. Thank you so much, Jonathan. Be careful out there. Appreciate it. Well, a major blow to terrorist groups overseas. Let's move there now. The Pentagon says that 2 leaders were killed during raids on Monday, including al-Qaeda's highest-ranking leader to die in Afghanistan since 2001. Another 80 al-Qaeda members were killed and 27 captured in this operation. The U.S. also announcing that Mullah Shawwali, the leader of the Taliban's Red Unit, was killed in an airstrike on Friday. And to another dangerous close call at one of America's busiest airports. A packed passenger plane cleared for landing on the same runway where another plane was about to take off. This happened at JFK Airport in New York City. A Volaris flight from Mexico was told to land on runway 13 left, but lined up on 13 right instead. Air traffic control guiding the plane around the airport before anything happened, thankfully. The FAA is, of course, investigating this, but this latest incident actually happens just 1 week after 2 planes clipped wings on the tarmac at JFK. We told you about that. And one of those planes had to be towed back to the gate. To the Department of Justice now, preparing to hand over FBI agent Peter Strzok's anti-President Trump text messages as new details are unfolding about his role in the Clinton email and Russia investigations. And Todd Pirro joins us now with more on these developments this morning. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning, Heather. House Intel Committee Chair Devin Nunes demanded those text messages between FBI counterintelligence agent Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, an FBI lawyer with whom Strzok was romantically involved. Both were part of Robert Mueller's Russia team, but are no longer. House investigators have long regarded Strzok as a key figure in the chain of events from 2016 when the FBI received that infamous anti-Trump dossier and launched a counterintelligence investigation into Russian meddling in the election. Strzok also oversaw the FBI's interviews with ousted National Security Advisor Michael Flynn, who pleaded guilty Friday to lying to FBI investigators in the Russia probe. And it was Strzok who changed James Comey's draft language in the Hillary Clinton decision from grossly negligent, a phrase that carries possible criminal penalties, to extremely careless, a phrase with no real legal implications.
Peter Strzok's at the intersection of all of these players in all of these investigations. And it was so bad that Mueller fired him months ago, but has not cooperated with the House Intelligence Committee. They were not providing the documents. They were not going to make them, except for now that it's in the media, we're not going to make them available. Devin Nunes, Trey Gowdy been trying to get at this for a long, long time.
Nunes has been assured those text messages will be turned over in the coming days. Also happening today before the House Intel Committee, more questioning of Donald Trump Jr., who's expected to be grilled on his family's financial dealings with Russia and that meeting he had with a Russian lawyer who promised information on Hillary Clinton during the 2016 campaign. Heather?
Yeah, and then on top of all this, we hear yesterday about this other Mueller deputy, this top prosecutor who sent a message praising someone who refused to follow what President Trump was trying to get done
to Sally
in terms of the travel ban. Yeah,
a lot of questions still unanswered throughout this entire investigation.
Yeah, we're going to talk more about that later. Thank you so much, Todd. Appreciate it. Good to have you here. Well, Democrats have been calling for President Trump's impeachment since day one.
I will fight every day until he is impeached.
ImpeachDonaldTrumpNow.com.
Well, new House Democrat Al Green is vowing to force a vote to impeach President Trump today. The Texas congressman is among a handful of liberals that have been agitating for our commander-in-chief's impeachment for months, but the effort expected to fail since Republicans control the House. And John Conyers finally bowing out following an avalanche of sexual harassment allegations, but the former congressman is calling it instead a retirement.
I am retiring, and I want everyone to know how much I appreciate the support, the incredible, undiminished support.
Well, the 88-year-old and longest-serving member of Congress, by the way, is accused of harassing female staffers and settling a lawsuit with taxpayer money. And Conyers went on to endorse his son to fill the seat, but it is up to the Democrats in the state to nominate their next candidate. And a fourth accuser came forward yesterday. Well, Congressman Conyers now calling on his son, as we said, to fill the seat that he has held for half a century. And Fox News contributor Katie Pavlich says that this is a perfect example of career politicians becoming so entrenched in Washington that they deepen the swamp.
I don't think the founding fathers ever intended for Congress or in the House or the Senate to be a career. Public service should have a meaning outside of coming to Washington, D.C. and turning what we call the swamp into more of a jacuzzi, getting comfortable. And if you look at the list that you just had up on the big board, there are a number of congressmen and women on that list who have been the subjects of ethics and violation investigations, including Maxine Waters, who has been there for a very long time. And so now that we see Representative Conyers resign, yes, he did some good things in his career, but the fact that he now wants his son to step in and continue his legacy really is quite rich since he's been there for so long.
Really is something. Well, Fox News alert for you. An ISIS plot to take out the British Prime Minister stopped just in time. We are live in London, where two terrorists are about to go before a judge. And some brand new evidence backing up the president's claims that the FBI is biased against him. So who can America trust to make sure that justice is served? Our next guest says the double standard is absurd. And defying death threats to pursue her passion, the woman hunter that will make it proud to be an American. Well, the plot thickens at the FBI as the DOJ prepares to hand over transcripts of the anti-President Trump text messages sent by FBI agent Peter Strzok. Republicans now questioning Strzok's role in some critical milestones during the Clinton and Russian investigations. But why aren't Democrats demanding answers from the FBI? Joining me now is senior legal fellow at the Heritage Foundation, Hans von Spakovsky. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Good morning, Heather.
So this is really unreal. Let's take a look just quickly at some of the revelations just involving Peter Strzok at this point. He oversaw and participated in questioning of General Michael Flynn in January. He led the Bureau's criminal investigation of Clinton as the deputy director of counterintelligence, and then changed Comey's draft language on Hillary, her private email server, from grossly negligent to extremely careless. And those are just some of the things that he's tied to at this point. So how can we trust the FBI when something like this is going on?
I don't know. This raises real questions about the objectivity and partisanship of the FBI. Because, look, here's a key thing. He was the FBI agent who interviewed Michael Flynn. It was his recounting of that the charges against Flynn were based on, of lying to an FBI agent. But remember, this is also the same FBI agent who interviewed Cheryl Mills and Huma Abedin, two of the chief aides to Hillary Clinton. They also lied to him about their knowledge of the home server, and yet they've never been charged with lying to an FBI agent. Why this double standard? That has been not explained by the FBI or the Justice Department.
Yeah, and this is what President Trump tweeted out about it. He said, anti-Trump FBI agent led Clinton email probe, as you just said. Now it all starts to make sense. Do you think that any of this would have been uncovered if President Trump had not, so continuously said, hey, something's not right here?
No, I don't think it would have been. And also, apparently, Bob Mueller has been stonewalling the House Intelligence Committee for months about this. The only reason they finally admitted it was because of an Inspector General investigation report. So that brings up a whole nother issue of why has Bob Mueller been covering this up?
Right, and the people that he's appointed to help him with the investigation into Russian collusion, the majority of them are Democratic donors, so it just continues. And then just yesterday we find out about this Andrew Weissman, who is one of the top, prosecutors for Mueller?
Yeah, he's the #2 guy, and he sent internal emails supporting Sally Yates when she was the holdover running the Justice Department, an Obama holdover, when she refused to defend Trump's travel order. She basically violated her professional duties, and yet Andrew Weissman is saying, oh, that was a great thing to do. That was completely wrong.
Yeah, so Hans, how do you fix it?
Well, I tell you, I have great doubts that it can be fixed. Look, here's another issue that nobody has raised. A prosecutor has an obligation under Supreme Court law to turn over any evidence bearing on the innocence of a defendant. The question is, did Bob Mueller let Mike Flynn's lawyers know that the chief witness against him, the FBI agent, had been removed from the case for bias? If he didn't do that, then Mueller was guilty of professional misconduct.
I'm betting the answer to that is no, but definitely somebody needs to look into that. And then Lisa Bloom, I think is her name, that was the other FBI agent that he was texting. So, and she was apparently working on the case as well.
Yeah, and she was his mistress, which says a whole lot of other things about the unprofessional conduct of agents at the FBI.
It is outrageous. Hans von Spakovsky, there you go. Thank you so much for joining us, Hans. Appreciate it. And apologize for that construction again, which continues there. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes after the top of the hour, and a surprise appearance from Beyonce, all to honor anthem-kneeling quarterback Colin Kaepernick, her praise and his promise that has everyone talking this morning. And never-Trumper Jeff Flake turning his back on his own party to support the Democratic challenger to Roy Moore in the Alabama Senate race. Is he really choosing country over party, though? Carly Shimkus has the GOP reaction, and it's not pretty. Good morning. Welcome back to Fox & Friends First. Country over party. That message from Republican Senator Jeff Flake, who just donated $100 to Democratic Alabama Senate candidate Doug Jones. The move coming after President Trump formally endorsed Republican Roy Moore. At Carly Shimkus with Fox News Headlines 24/7, Sirius XM 115, here with how Republicans are now firing back. And it's not really pretty, right?
That's right. You know, Jeff Flake really put his money where his mouth is. He's been a vocal opponent of Roy Moore, so he did donate to Alabama's Democratic Senate candidate Doug Jones. The move sparked a fiery response from former White House chief strategist Steve Bannon, who mocked Flake's donation size at a rally for Roy Moore last night. Take a listen.
Let's talk about Jeff Flake. Did he sign a check today, $100 to Jones, right? What do you say, put country ahead of party? Come on, brother, if you're going to write a check, write a check.
So the embattled Republican candidate, Roy Moore, he is now using this as a donation opportunity. He tweeted, calling all patriots, pro-amnesty, big government. Republican Senator Jeff Flake just donated to my pro-abortion, open borders, anti-gun liberal opponent. I am asking for 100 grassroots conservatives to step up and reject the D.C. establishment by donating here. Nebraska Senator Ben Sasse also weighed in, saying this donation is a bad idea. It's possible to be against both partial birth abortion and child molestation devastation happily most Americans are. Yikes.
All right, well, that continues to unfold. Let's move on to this female hunter who is defying some threats to actually, there's some death threats that she's getting.
That's right. Her name is Nikki Tate. She's a 27-year-old attorney in Texas, and she's gained quite an Instagram following for posting pictures that show her love for hunting, but she's also battling a whole lot of Instagram critics as well. One person says must feel nice getting up every day knowing how many beautiful animals you are killing. If I want meat, I just go to the grocery store. They've already killed enough animals. Well, another Instagram commenter weighed in saying, keep up your passion. The same people complaining should see how the meat they eat from the grocery store is killed every day. Nikki Tate, by the way, says that she and her husband eat everything that they kill, and they pride themselves in how they ethically shoot animals.
All right, now what in the world is that? What is that?
That's the big question of the day. This is actually candy canes melted over pizza. It is the new holiday pizza topping that's gaining quite a traction on social media. Jerry on Twitter says, I can accept pineapple on pizza, but this is absolutely atrocious. Yikes.
I think another word would be gross.
I don't
sorry.
know how Santa
I love
would
pizza,
even feel
but
about this.
No, peppermint and tomato sauce, I don't think so.
Not at all.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much,
Thanks
Carly.
a lot.
Appreciate it. Well, President Trump about to make good on another campaign promise.
We will move the American embassy to the eternal capital of the Jewish people, Jerusalem.
As Muslim leaders warn severe consequences, our next guest, an Israeli counterterrorism expert, says that our commander-in-chief is not afraid of making the right move. And the White House firing back after the NAACP tells President Trump to cancel his plans to attend a Civil War museum opening.
I think he got his statement very clear when he condemned all forms of racism, bigotry, and violence. There's no gray area there.
Sarah Huckabee Sanders' epic response shutting them down. Welcome back. This Fox News alert for you. U.S. bombers flying in South Korea. Now, this latest show of force, of course, follows North Korea testing a new missile that could threaten the entire U.S. mainland. Kitty Logan is live for us in London with our look at your international headlines this morning. Good morning, Kitty.
Good morning, Heather. Well, China is calling for restraint over North Korea as those US and South Korean military drills continue throughout this week. A US supersonic bomber flew over the Korean peninsula today as part of this large combined exercise. It took off in Guam, joining hundreds of other US and South Korean fighter jets in a clear warning to North Korea. Now, around 12,000 US troops are also participating. North Korea claims these annual drills are pushing the region to the brink of war. But only last week, Pyongyang launched one of its most advanced missile tests, further inflaming tensions. That missile apparently has the potential range to strike the US if flown in a straight trajectory. Now, here in the UK, British media say 2 men will appear in a London court today, charged over a bomb plot targeting British Prime Minister Theresa May. The men allegedly planned to detonate a bomb close to the Prime Minister's office and wanted to try to assassinate her in the aftermath. This comes a day after a report on recent terror attacks said some attackers were previously known to intelligence services and chances to stop them were missed. However, several other possible terror plots in the UK have been thwarted by authorities, including this latest one. Now, in other stories, yesterday, the International Olympic Committee decided Russian athletes could only compete at the upcoming Winter Olympics if they do not participate under their country's flag. The IOC says the Russian team took part in organised doping at the 2014 Sochi Games and has caused unprecedented damage to the sport, they say. Now, Russia, of course, denies any allegations of state-sponsored doping and says it may even boycott these games. Heather.
All right, Russia in the news for another reason, and not the Russia collusion. Thank you so much. Kitty Logan, live for us. Thank you. Well, back at home, the Supreme Court appearing sympathetic in the landmark case involving a Colorado bake shop owner who refused to make a cake for a same-sex couple. After hearing testimony from both sides, the bench now has to decide if Jack Phillips can decline to make a custom cake over his religious views or if he was unlawfully discriminating.
It's been very hard on me and my family.
There have been many tears. This story isn't an abstract. This is about real pain felt by real people.
Now, Phillips, who lost 40% of his business after shutting down his cake-making services, joins Fox and Friends live in the 7 o'clock hour. So stay tuned for that. That'll be interesting. And nearly 200 passengers aboard one of the world's largest cruise ships becoming sick at sea. The passengers on board the Ovation of the Seas suffering gastrointestinal illnesses after the ship served what passengers called the bottomless buffet. We've all seen those. Well, crews wearing protective suits, actually, and face masks, spraying the halls to try and clear the outbreak. Well, health officials say that 5 people were actually taken to the hospital in Tasmania during its 2-week voyage. The ship is set to arrive in Sydney tomorrow, so beware of those bottomless buffets. Well, better put down the booze before flying your drone. New Jersey lawmakers clearing a bill through the Assembly that would make it illegal to operate a drone while drunk. If the proposed law is broken, offenders could face up to 6 months in prison plus a $1,000 fine or both. The state Senate will vote on it tomorrow. So what incident happened that started that? Well, President Trump fulfilling another campaign promise as he expected to announce today the start of the process of recognizing Jerusalem as the capital of Israel and moving the U.S. Embassy there from Tel Aviv. A world leader is already warning of severe consequences. Here to weigh in, former member of Israel's Special Operations Counter-Terrorist Unit, Aaron Cohen. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Good morning, Heather.
All right, so President Trump expected to make this announcement at 1 p.m. today. What do you expect the response to be?
Well, I expect the response to be exactly what it's been for the last 60-plus years since Israel's independence. There's 50 majority Muslim countries. There's over 1 billion Muslims who occupy this world, and they've been systematically indoctrinated to hate Israel. The problem is that what they don't realize is that President Trump is being very strategic. He's always been strategic when it comes to Israel because he fundamentally, unlike the former president, understands Israel's intelligence capabilities, which is an incredibly important piece of U.S. national security. The Israeli intelligence apparatus, also known as the Mossad, or in Hebrew the Misrad L'Tafkidim Meuchadim, or the Institute for Special Tasks, is one of the finest intelligence and data processing services in the world. And the reason why is we have Jews who have been kicked out of every Muslim country over the last 50 years, so they're able to infiltrate all over the world undetected and bring forward the finest level of intelligence which Israel shares with the United States. And that is a key component to national security here in the U.S.
And this is something that's been promised for some time, and it'll actually take 3 or 4 years to in fact, move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem. Here's what Palestine President Mahmoud Abbas had to say. He said such a move will actually have detrimental consequences, he said, on the peace process and the prospects for the internationally endorsed two-state solution. So he's warning that, and then you have Turkish President Erdogan saying that this is the red line and that it will sever diplomatic relations. So in terms of security all over the world, what does this cause?
Well, listen, we've increased our security. We have fast teams from the Marine Corps who are traveling to those regions right now to be able to provide additional assistance to our consulates and to the embassies, the U.S. embassies abroad. This is just more gobbledygook. It's more talk by Abbas. It's more talk by Erdogan. You know, these leaders aren't really in a position to criticize President Trump. We give those leaders millions, and if not billions of dollars. They still haven't sat down and come to the table. Erdogan is still in a complete quagmire when it comes to operations involving terrorism just across his border in Syria, and he's got to get his country under control. So really it's about President Trump and understanding how dynamic that relationship with Israel it is, and Israel is going to protect itself and defend itself like it always does, as will the Americans with our consulates and embassies abroad. So
it has more to do with than just fulfilling a campaign promise. Can you recognize Israel without recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital?
Absolutely not. The capital of Israel, Jerusalem, has been its capital for 3,000 years. That Western Wall, dating back to that first kingdom, has been around, and it's even written in the Quran and translated in the Hadith that the Jerusalem is the holy capital to the Jews, to the Israelites. Even the Muslims, when they dig into the text, know that that is a historical fact. There's nothing to be argued about there. You cannot have Israel without a Jerusalem as a capital. Hopefully one day there can be peace, but I served in the Israeli Defense Forces. I've been involved with the war on terror for over 17 years, and nothing is going to change regardless of what Abbas says and what Erdogan says.
Yeah.
Jerusalem is the capital. There's no question.
And there's been no peace so far with the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv.
Correct.
So, moving it, we'll see what happens. Aaron Cohen, thank you so much for joining us. No argument, a major foreign policy announcement today at 1 p.m. Thanks.
Thank you.
Well, the time now is about 20 minutes until the top of the hour. Getting justice for Kate Steinle. Some brand new charges just filed against the illegal immigrant acquitted of her murder. And cracking down on content, the action YouTube is now taking to stop the spread of inappropriate videos and terrorist propaganda. And less is more this Christmas. The new study that says you don't have to pile the presents under the tree. Well, the 5-time deported illegal immigrant just acquitted in the shooting death of Kate Steinle is now facing new federal charges. Kelly Wright joining us now live with the new indictment just handed down by the Justice Department. Good morning, Kelly.
Heather, good morning to you as well. Following the acquittal of Jose Garcia Zarate in the killing of Kate Steinle, criticism of the verdict erupted. President Trump even speaking out against it, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions vowing to get the Justice Department involved. So on Tuesday, just days after Zarate was acquitted of murder and manslaughter charges in the sanctuary city of San Francisco, a federal grand jury indicted Zarate on 2 new charges. Attorney General Sessions last week blamed San Francisco sanctuary city status for Steinle's death, saying the city allowed a man who had been deported 5 times back on the streets. Brian Stretch, U.S. Attorney of Northern California, San Francisco, clarified the charges in a statement stating this: a federal grand jury indicted Jose Inez Garcia Zarate today for being a felon in possession of a firearm and ammunition, and for being an illegally present alien in possession of a firearm and ammunition. Now, San Francisco's district attorney is now speaking out about the case after the verdict. He says his thoughts have always been on the Steinle family, but he adds that he stands for the city's sanctuary policy and claims the case has been used by politicians for political gain.
The jury did their work, and we respect their work. We may disagree, but we respect their work. And I think it's important for the President of the United States to remember that this is a nation of laws. And part of being a nation of laws is that we respect the legal process, even when the outcome is one that we may be unhappy with.
Here's something we should point out as well. During the trial, Garcia Zarate's immigration history of being deported 5 times was never allowed in that trial. And as for the new charges he's now facing, if found guilty, he could be sentenced to 10 years in prison. Heather?
All right, Kelly Wright joining us live. Thank you, Kelly, for the update.
Sure.